Good morning, Southwest Florida, and welcome to the American Tradesman Show with my guest, Juan Silva from American Electrical, Brian Prevette from Prevette Plumbing, and his best brother and biggest brother, Gerald Prevette from B&K. So this morning we're going to talk with Juan a little bit about high ceilings. And, you know, back in the day we used to use those long rods that suction cups, and you remember those days when you'd take a suction cup out and they're just popping up on the bulb. Next thing you know, the bulb came out all on top of you. Remember that?
Sometimes bulbs or other things too came out with it.
Yeah, the whole trim would come out. Yeah, you know, a lot of people, call me after the fact. I can say that most of the time what happens is you hear them say, well, I tried to get up there and I used a potato to twist the bulb out because I broke in the light socket, right? That's an old day. That's an old school way to getting the light socket out of baked potato.
Baked potato. Just don't try doing it in a refrigerator.
Or the switch is on either.
Because when you open that door, that switch is on. So don't do that.
So you'd have a baked potato. Brian, they'd probably be baked. Don't you think?
I'm thinking, like 9 minutes in the microwave and then?
9 minutes in the microwave is not good enough. But, a lot of people, I know, stand on the top of the ring, right? Think about it. That's one of the parts that we hear my husband standing on top of the ring of the ladder trying to change the light bulb.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. The last thing you want to do is get on the ladder. You only go up to the second ring, you know what I mean? And that's where you stop. You don't want to go any higher than that. But yeah, with the poles and the suction cups and the baskets pulling out bulbs, you always end up doing more damage than good when you do that.
Yeah, obviously from the change from incandescent light bulb to LED is part of, now putting up in high ceilings, right?
Yeah, that's the first thing that I recommend right off the bat is if we do high ceiling work. And what I mean by high ceiling work, anything that's about 20 feet and above. That's going to be considered high ceiling work for us. We work on churches, theaters, even residential homes where they have very high ceilings.
Yeah, a lot of times the chandeliers in the entryway in the foyer, a lot of times that we'll get calls out because the bulbs are obviously too far for them to reach, but they're candelabra based. But we now bring candelabra based LED, right?
Yeah, like I said, I'll recommend the LED bulbs, the color temperature, the output as in lumens. Also, if they have a smoke detector up high, I'll bring that up to their attention, and like you said, with cleaning them, I always let the client know that there's always an option for a chandelier lift.
Right, and that's sometimes, not to say it, but that makes the situation a lot easier from a chandelier, over a dining room table, than some guy kind of hanging over the table that you could never move if you wanted to. Exactly.
That's one of we always have obstacles, whether it be, a dining room table, a billiard table. It's one of the biggest things because you can't move those. Once they're set in place, they're leveled, they're plumbed.
Yeah, a lot of times, Brian, you know this too. Some of these poles that we put up in the middle of the living room, we can't get to those poles. Those lights, right? Yeah, they're just too high up with a pole.
Brian, you take some serious skill.
You
some
climb
classes,
the pole. Actually. You go up the pole, you can change the light bulb. It's coming back down is our problem.
Yeah, bounce it right back up from the.
Well, we talk about the high ceilings. Not to say, but we are. Have some lifting equipment, right, that can take us into a church, right?
So going through the process, once a client gives us a call and says, "Hey, I've got 35-foot ceilings," and that's when I kind of like, okay, so I start asking questions. What's your address? That way I can kind of do a quick search on Google, take a look at the front, to see what it looks like, get them an idea, and then I'll determine, okay, probably has 25 feet, because sometimes it's hard for, a person to determine a height or a distance. Us being in the construction field, we typically we can visualize those things on what heights are. So once I get that information, then I'll kind of figure out if it's feasible using an extension ladder with some arms, or if we're going to have to get a personal lift in there.
And not to say, so the audience knows, it's not one of those commercial lifts where they see these big things. It's a single man lift, and it's probably, I'd say, 3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot. It's a square.
Basically designed to
fit
electric, in a doorway.
Right? Yeah. That gives the opportunity for us to get up into, not to say it, in between the pews from a church, right?
Yeah, so even with going into theater or pews in a church, it'll have a cradle. and we will cradle actually
In between there.
in between them to get in the positions that we need to.
So from a commercial standpoint, from a property manager, if you got some situations where you're in a stairwell, right?
Yes.
I mean, and you can't reach the cupola or something in the high areas. If you're a property manager and you have a lot of times problems with trying to get to those light bulbs, give us a call over at American Electrical, right?
Yeah, give us a call, and at 239-353-4389, and we'll give you suggestions, to where either we can improve the lighting, that way you're not running into the situation again, because we do understand that it's hard to it's a hard to reach ceiling, hard to reach height, so at that point we'll suggest, hey, do you want to move forward and changing out to LED? I will specify the correct lighting for you, even if that's going to be in a church or a theater,
Commercial building, yeah.
a commercial building.
Not
yeah.
to say it, you just said it. I mean, we've taken care of the movie theaters for years. I mean, a lot of times it's hard to get to those bulbs all the way up. If you're owner or manager of a theater and you're having problems getting to those bulbs to change them, we'll be more than happy to come out and change them to LED. I think you're going to save energy, obviously, right?
Yep.
And it's going to save maintenance because you're not going to be up there as much.
Well, I mean, one of the biggest things is like a church that I did some work for. They happen to have Lutron in there that controls their lighting, and same issue, very high ceilings, and it gets to the point where if you're in a commercial building or you're in a condo or a home that's with really high ceilings, or a church, you start wondering, who do I call to find the right bulb, the right lamp, I should say, the right lamp to change over to LED, and many times I've seen to where they call a lighting company,
Or a light bulb company.
or a light bulb company, and they'll come in and they'll say, hey, we'll try this, we'll try this, we'll try this, and I've been able to, circumvent those options and say, hey, this is what you actually need. This is what's going to give you what you want. I start with asking you, okay, is the lighting right now okay for you? Do you want more lighting or do you want less lighting? To figure out what your expectations are to specify what you really need.
And not to say it from an incandescent situation, even fluorescent, you have a retrofit now from an LED, right? From interior lights, even outside for the pole lights, right?
Yeah, there's a retrofit for fluorescent fixtures and pole lighting. And actually, I'm gonna bring this up because it's been so long since I bought a par lamp, a halogen par lamp,
Right.
and
That's how hot they
how
are.
hard it's been for me to try to find one.
Yeah, I think a lot of times nowadays, I mean, not to say it, but par lamps have kind of gone down in the wasteland, so isn't fluorescent, right?
Yeah, it's getting harder and harder to find them. I've called all my vendors, and say, yeah, well, I don't really have in stock. I only got a limited account. We're doing away from purchasing them because, well, it's LED now.
It's almost like the government's forcing you to do that. It's like the toilets, right, Brian? You could only put so much water down there, and then they started to shorten up on the water. And I was in the county building the other day, and they have the faucets where they only put out just a certain amount of water, and two guys are standing there, and it's not like my hands are that big, and he couldn't get enough water out of him. He just stood there, and he kept. I think they're using more water each time. He kept pushing the button. By the time he's done, he probably would have been better off just to turn it on high and then washed his hands and walked away. But everything has become energy efficiency, right?
Yeah, trying to get away from the waste. Even now with the regulations, I mean, you're not going to find a 75 watt equivalent anymore. You're going to find, a 53 water. And that's what I'm running into now is where, with the halogens, it's getting harder and harder. And you're I don't want to say you're getting forced into to adapt and change, but it's at that moment.
You are being forced. You are. But, we do have that thing coming up on that subliminal message we had before, right, Juan? Didn't we have a subliminal? What was that subliminal message?
Trump 2020?
2020. Trump 2020.
Now,
Just saying.
do y'all switch the automated candles at the church to LED?
We do. Yeah, I got to say, they no longer light those things up. Juan's got a little confused. He's trying to figure out what candle. He's just asking a question. The candles that they use at the front for the altar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those candles. I know Gerald's. He and I went to church last weekend together, right? Did you?
We know.
Yeah.
And actually you kind of just brought that up. I wanted to mention that, last week we spoke about Lutron and home automation, but Lutron does have a commercial division. And, that is something that I do work on as well on the commercial side, when it starts going into GP panels and, whichever version of graphic guide that you have that's going to be controlling those panels. I do that as well. So if you have a church or a commercial building that does have Lutron commercial products, I can service those.
And shades, right?
And the shades.
That's right. So, not to say it from a Lutron standpoint, Lutron provides obviously lighting control from a dimming standpoint, but they also provide drapes or blinds in the Lutron division also.
Yeah, I've done that. We can specify, whichever shade you would like to use. We'll make recommendations, and then for drapes as well. I've done those in condos where we have a drape in the master bedroom.
And not to say it for schools. I mean, we're starting to see that in schools more. LED has transformed the whole market. Out there from pole lights, right, to the lights that's in your own under cabinet, under cabinet lights in the residential market. So we talk about high ceilings because nowadays, if I change the high ceiling light bulbs to LED and down low under cabinets are halogen, right?
Yeah.
It creates what we call the rainbow effect.
Yeah, you don't want to have different colors,
Brian,
and
did you hear that, Brian?
Just the rainbow colors?
the rainbow colors.
Skittles. Hey, Skittles.
Well, you don't want to have a warm and a soft warm and a cool white. You want to make sure you keep the same color temperatures across the board. But as going in for, the under cabinets, like you said, Anthony, I mean, to be honest with you, if you take per fixture count to achieve the same lighting that you're going to get out of an LED ribbon, it's more cost effective to go with the LED ribbon.
And not to say it, but if you think about the ribbon versus a fixture that's LED, you're talking about a big 4-inch, by 4-inch by 2-inch slimline fixture.
Yeah, it's either going to be, the common, which is going to be 9-inch, 12-inch, 18, 24, and 36. So now, you're having to do these combinations of fixtures to get the linear footage or inches, as it say, that you can do in an instant with LED ribbon.
And the ribbon is actually just like a ribbon. It's probably big as a Scotch tape, right?
Yeah, it depends on what version you get, but you can get them from about, half an inch wide. In profile, profile is so small. It's very, very, very thin.
A lot of things nowadays we're eliminating also on the backsplash outlets to put the ribbon lighting on one area and then putting plug mold on there so that you don't have that look of outlets in the wall. And the plug mold gives you several outlets.
Yeah, that's one of kind of my go-to things, when I do kitchen remodels. That's the first thing I say, hey, let's get rid of the receptacles on the backsplash. Let's do some plug mold underneath with some LED ribbon lighting. Let's clean up the backsplash for your nice tile work. Why do you want to cut into the nice design for a receptacle or a switch on the wall?
And all this has got to do with the residential and commercial aspects. We talk about, the high ceilings that, if you have these chandeliers and entryways and foyers, if you have a chandelier over a nice dining room table and you don't want to start moving things around, that's something you can help out with.
The dining room tables, billiard tables, the best ones that, that boggles my mind sometimes is why a chandelier lift was never installed is within a stairs.
Right.
And
get a spiral stairs, 4 floors.
Yeah.
You got to hang a fixture up there. And a lot of times that's when you got to build scaffolding.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, a lot of times these fixtures are installed before the project is even completed because of the fact that it was never thought before to put in a chandelier lift. And then, you come in after the fact and you start thinking, like, well, how did they even put this fixture up? Because like you said, you want to build scaffolding, but with the spiral staircase being completed, a 5x5 scaffolding is not going to fit. So it's just, you start to wonder, did they do this before the house was completed?
A lot of times we run into those issues, just stairwells from a residential standpoint and changing the light fixture. Mm-hmm. So a lot of things that we do professionally do help out with those things and install light bulbs and fixtures is something we'll have to, we can construct scaffolding if we have to get to that fixture, right?
Yeah. A lot of times that what ends up happening too is the cleaning professionals, they'll come in and they'll spin the chandeliers. I've seen that plenty of times where they continuously spin the chandelier and it starts unthreading at the anchor point where it's attached to the junction box, and the chandelier will fall.
That's funny that you said that, because they do that just because they're only in one little spot, probably hanging over the staircase, probably spinning that fixture to keep it clean, right?
Dining room tables, billiard tables, they lean over, they grab one arm of that chandelier, they wipe it down, and they spin over, and they spin. Well, it's spinning over, the course of, I don't know, 6 months or whatnot. You're finally going to unthread that thing.
Yeah, and I've been in those homes where they did come crashing down.
Yep, so have I.
And not to say it, but, from a homeowner standpoint, you surely don't want to be in a position where you're on a 6-foot ladder leaning over trying to dust, a fixture out either. So a lot of times once we've done changing the light bulbs to LED, we're going to clean the fixture, right?
Yes, we make sure that we have gloves because one of the hardest part is actually the crystals, the glass, the polished chrome, leaving fingerprints behind.
Brian got a little excited on the glove.
I'm just visualizing you guys with like feather dusters and stuff.
We do what we got to do.
We wear booties, Brian. We wear booties, remember? And drop cloths, right, Juan?
Drop cloths, booties, protection for the floor. We do keep in mind that we are in someone else's home. And with that, we treat it as if it was our home if another professional was going to come in. Those are our expectations.
And not to say it, but over at American Electrical, you guys do a five-year background investigation.
Yeah, we check on all our guys.
And all of our vehicles have GPSs just like yours, right, Brian?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, our guys have all been checked on a 5-year background investigation. And not to say that makes a big difference, but if you're going to hire a company to come out to work in your home, I'm only going to be honest. Make sure who is coming, right? We're going to send you an email, right?
Yeah, so, you'll get an email, stating who is coming to your home. Then you would get a text message once the tech is leaving his first or last service call, I should say, and when he proceeds to yours. That way he's on the way.
So that's a safety feature for the security feature for the homeowner as well. You're going to get a call from us. You're going to get a text from us just to let you know. And then when you do get there, you're going to know the technician's name.
Exactly.
So that from a homeowner standpoint, that's important. Like I said, if you're a homeowner and you have light fixtures that you just don't know what to do with only 1 or 2 light bulbs out, thinking you're going to wait for them to all blow out, right?
Yeah, a lot of times I get the phone call, well, I got one out, and I'm not sure if I want to change it out just yet. And I was like, well, give me a call back when you're ready. Once they have 2 or 3 out, then I'll come in and I'll say, hey, let's get them all done. Let's change over to LED, let's get the right color temperature and let's get you going.
And a lot of times I will say this also, a dimmer is attached to that, correct?
I always recommend a dimmer, reason being because once you transition from halogen or incandescent to an LED, it is a big difference. I like to say that the light's a little bit more crisper, and you get a lot more light output from an LED. So I recommend a dimmer. That way, you have the option to dim it down.
And most likely, if you have an incandescent or a halogen dimmer in the wall, it's going to have to be changed out to LED dimmer.
Exactly.
So that's part of, our education on that side of it is that we want to let the audience know if you have some high ceilings and you have dimmers that are already existing on these fixtures, we're going to also recommend that you change the dimmer to LED because it will not work correctly if you don't, right?
Exactly. It's always about, making sure that the different products will work with one another, whether it comes from an LED bulb to a dimmer, to LED ribbon to a driver or transformer to the dimmer, just across the board to make sure that everything works seamlessly.
A lot of times people don't recognize they go to Home Depot and they pick up a dimmer, and one of the things that's the biggest problem is 0 to 10, right?
0 to 10, yeah. That's a whole different animal there when it comes to dimming.
And a lot of times people will put in that bulb, it doesn't coincide with the dimmer, and the next thing you have is what's called the flickering effect down low, right?
You'll have the flickering effect, Here's the biggest deal with big box stores. You'll walk into a big box store and I say, oh, I can buy 6 LED bulbs for X amount of dollars. That's actually really cheap in comparison to buying this one LED bulb. I don't know what the difference is, but I'm going to take the 6 home. You'll pop them in your fixtures, and then you realize it's not working correctly with your dimmer. And a lot of times the reason is the non-dimmable LED bulbs, which you will find everywhere, are significantly cheaper than a dimmable.
So, like I said, if the audience is out there and just got back from, up north, and you come home and started seeing some of them light bulbs that are up high in the ceilings, give us a call over at American Electrical, right, Juan?
Yeah, give us a call at 239-353-4389. We'll make recommendations, whether that be, a direct lamp replacement or an LED retrofit, depending on the ceiling height. We're not going to do a standard, 600 lumen, retrofit. Depending on the ceiling of the height that you have, I want to throw a little bit more lumens. That way you get the lighting down below that you should have.
Well, that's an important thing for all of the audience out there. A lot of times, like I said, the education about LED is one thing. Being up high, I would suggest highly, if you have some light fixtures that are up high, to give us a call over to American Electrical. It's important, your safety. I will tell you that my own father-in-law used to change the light bulbs until he fell off the ladder and cracked his head. So, it's not something you really want to happen. So don't hesitate to give us a call and talk to Juan or Shelby over there, right? Shelby will take the call.
Yeah, Shelby, give us a call. Shelby will take the call. She'll, run down with you on what is it that you're looking to achieve, and then we'll help you out. And, we touched a lot on the residential side, but also on the commercial side. We do plazas and commercial buildings, Publixes, the pole lighting, parking lot lighting, to where it's getting harder and harder to find, the ballasts for these canopy lights in majority of the plazas here in Naples, to where, it's getting to the point where it may be cheaper to retrofit to an LED versus me trying to custom order a ballast for a few of these canopy lights.
Yeah, you talk about the retrofitting in a home and in the commercial side. A lot of things nowadays is done with LED. I can tell you that I never, imagine that 5-6 years later the LED become this big, but it is now taking over the world, from an LED standpoint. And that's important for everybody to understand. You talked about, recess lighting, that's LED. Now we have a trim that you can pull our old trim out, right, and just put in another trim.
Exactly. So if you end up pulling out the trim and bulb with the pole and socket.
Yeah, give us a call, because we got something that'll just go right back up in one piece, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, one of the things I do tell people, we supply a lot of these LED slimline fixtures for the garages now and for the closets. And, nowadays there's none of this big fluorescent bulb.
Yeah, or, the it thing back in the day with the cloud fixtures.
Yeah, I
remember that?
Yeah, now the cloud fixtures are gone, and it's a slimline fixture, right?
Yeah, it's a very slim line, about a 1-inch profile edge lit LED panel.
Yeah, and that, I got to tell you, I got them in my new home, and I think they're beautiful. It's a nice, you don't even notice it, really.
Yeah, very flat, tight to the ceiling.
And we also do the retrofits over at American Electrical also, if you need to. So you could have just a regular fixture in there, and we could retrofit to an LED, right?
Yeah, so, if you do have existing fluorescents, which majority of us do, garages, laundry rooms, closets, even in kitchens and older condos, we do that a lot, where we'll retrofit them. We can leave the existing fixture in place, rip out the old ballast, reconfigure your sockets, pop in these LED lamps, and then you have an LED lamp with an existing fixture.
Yeah, the retrofitting nowadays is just common for us. My buddy, Dr. Johnny over at Supreme Auto said that too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I can only say it's an important thing for a lot of people from an energy standpoint. People don't recognize that, LED doesn't give out an ambient light to bugs. So one of the things about LED fixtures and LED bulbs, LED floodlights, is that they don't attract light bugs anymore, right?
Yeah,
it's not like a high-pressure
bugs.
sodium.
LED is just, I'm sorry to say, it's just a way to go. It's going to be a lot easier. Take landscape lighting, for example. We do a lot of landscape lighting projects, to where either, if you want us to keep a maintenance on your landscape lighting, which we do, we go out, we'll assess your existing system. If there's any repairs that need to be done, we'll repair them. And then we can put you on a maintenance schedule, to where we'll come out and we'll relamp and clean lenses. And at that point, we can say, hey, you want to change to LED. And no longer do you have to do a maintenance schedule like that. Because that was something that was very popular, back in the day, because with halogens, you had a very short lifespan on them.
Yeah, when they used to say 100,000 hours, I used to think that cannot be true. It don't. don't seem like that. I myself have probably 200, right, Juan, 300 landscape lights in my yard.
You got too many.
You got too many.
You guys put some LED lights up in my garage a while back, 4-footers, and I can actually play my music from my phone through it.
You can?
It's the lights with the speakers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Do
I got
dance?
it from you guys. You guys put them in.
Do we dance?
Well, I mean,
You dance?
I don't promote it, but
Are you karaoke?
Brian's getting ready to dance this weekend. Is his Valentine's Day? He gets his
chocolates and
Godiva.
candies.
You got a brass pony?
Yeah, he gets a ride. He's going to ride us home right all the way. Well, listen, over at American Electrical, you guys can, take care of the lighting on the LED. We talked about, high ceilings and talked about retrofitting on the commercial side. You guys can do it pretty much all, right?
Yeah, we do it all. Right now I'm taking on a project for a client of mine to where, they wanted me to specify even decorative fixtures. I specified a decorative fixture. They wanted to replace all their coach lights on multiple of their properties of their buildings. And, I specified a fixture, specifying a lamp for it to help them out and get the things done. We can do that. That's what we do. That's our specialty over here at American Electrical. We're not just a wire jockey, or a rope puller, what we call them. We are more of the refined electrician, that we can actually help you out in multiple aspects.
We are an electrician, right?
You like the Chardonnay?
Or the Cristal.
Whoa!
Brian got a little happy on that one.
Thinking some, Mad Dog or something.
Well, listen, out there in the audience, if you guys want to give us a call over to American Electrical, what's that phone number, Juan?
239-353-4389.
239-353-4389. And give us an email if you want to talk about something on the show. We talked earlier last week about small companies, and the small companies out there want to shout out. Give me an email at ac@theamericantrades.com. That's ac@theamericantrades.com. I would welcome all emails if you want to talk about your company, if you want to talk about something that's out there that you'd like to learn. That's what I'm here for at American Contracting, American Electrical, and Brian Prevett from Prevett Plumbing, and Gerald from BK Services. We're here just to give a little bit of answers out there. If you got any questions, feel free to email me, like I said, at ac@theamericantrades.com. That's ac@theamericantrades.com. Or you can even call me at 239-919-1789. That's 239-919-1789. Again, Juan, we talked about LED. Last week we talked about Lutron. It all coincides with automation, right?
Yes.
And so the automation part of all that and the lighting controls, and this is all about saving money, right?
It's about saving money, but I'm going to go touch base on the house you're building. So as a builder, as a contractor, you do bring a plan set forth, or if you're doing a build out or you're doing a remodel, and you're looking for an electrician to give you suggestions, give you advice, on how to do lighting to a certain aspect, and I'm not putting down any contractors here, but what I'm saying is if you do need help to shoot you in the right direction, give you ideas that you may not be aware of, that's what we offer at American Electrical. I can come in and I can sit down with you, whether it be a kitchen remodel, bathroom remodels, or just a whole home remodel. Sit down with you, see what the homeowner wants, get an idea of their living lifestyle, and provide and specify fixtures, lighting, and certain things, whether it be automation, to give them that full design.
Yeah, not to say it from a second opinion even. We just finished a country club up at the Vineyards Country Club. Mm-hmm. It's a major project for us for lighting with LED, right?
Yes.
And we used the Lutron system to coincide with both sides of the dining room facilities, the bar. So everything we did over the country club was based on Lutron and coinciding with music and all of that they put together. What a beautiful place it turned out to be, too.
Yeah. It came down to where, we designed the Lutron system. We, made sure that we specified the right 0 to 10 recessed cans, specified, gimbal lighting and slope ceilings, specified art lighting, for the walls, that directional lighting where you want it, to cove lighting, to LED panels at the bar, just to make sure that everything works with one button press.
Yeah, like I said earlier last week, automation has become the whole kit and caboodle, an application, right? I mean, that's what it is. So everything's becoming application driven. Lutron's become application driven, and alarms.com has become application driven. I mean, my garage door, everything's become coffee even. My refrigerator has an app. I can make coffee from here, Juan.
That's nice.
I don't know if I'd want to get it when I got home, but I can make my own coffee from right on my phone. So if you guys got anything out there from high ceilings to landscape lighting, which is low ceilings and low ground, to middle ground where you want to get your bulbs changed out from us, give us a call over at American Electrical at 239-353-4389. Juan, I mean, Lutron is the innovator of dimmers, and so isn't, alarms.com. So it's part about automation and some of the things that we do with American Electrical.
Yep, automation, and like I said, high ceiling work. We do smoke detectors. The infamous smoke detectors, at a foyer, that's 25 feet up in the air.
That thing goes chirp right around 2 o'clock in the morning.
Around 2
chirp.
o'clock in the morning, we get that call with that chirp, chirp, chirp.
Chirp.
Or it sounds off. It creates, makes all the smoke
audible
detector. Yeah.
And not to say, nowadays we change the smoke detectors out to, a carbon combination, right?
Yeah, we'll bring them up to new code standards, having the combos. And then also we do 10-year sealed battery smoke detectors. That way you're not worrying about changing a smoke battery within a year.
So that gives you almost a 10-year life expectancy on a smoke.
Yep.
Most people don't recognize that after 5 years, the old smoke detectors were no good. And it was due to, a lot of times, the air conditioning ductwork. If you look up, we had to have a smoke detector within 3 feet of the smoke, 3 feet of the air return, right?
Yeah, there's a certain distance we have to keep away from returns, vents, and fan blades.
So when the return would suck air up into it, the smoke detector was right there. It used to collect so much dust. And once the dust is covered over the sensor, smoke detectors go bad.
Oh, yeah, it's dust. And, I've taken out many where, you can tap them and you start getting mosquitoes and flies and who knows what kind of bugs are coming out of it.
Yeah, Juan, I can tell you a lot of times I pull some things up besides just a few mosquitoes. I can tell you that maybe even a couple cockroaches that come out with a smoke detector, right, Brian? You've seen that, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Well, Gerald, we wanted to talk a little bit about this week about water heaters and recirculating pumps and some of the things my man Michael Sadi over at the Vineyards helped out, right, Brian? A couple days ago, he went and put a recycling pump on it, but over the Vineyards, Michael had some recirculating problems. And go ahead, Gerald. I'll let you go at it and tell me what you got.
All right. So, nowadays, for the most part, we have hot water heaters that are designed for, if you live in a condo or a home that's, say, 20 or 25 years old, it's really not designed for today's lifestyle. A lot of times you have to where you may require more hot water. If your water heater is, fairly new and it's not time to replace it yet, but you're thinking, well, how can I get more hot water? Maybe you've had another addition to the house, another kid. You need just a little bit more hot water. What we can recommend to you is a water heater booster. And so what this does is it sits on the output side of your water heater, and it's essentially like a little mini tankless water heater. It plugs into the power that you originally have for your hot water heater, so it requires no additional electrical work. And what this does is it monitors the output temperature of your water heater. And say if you have your water heater set, 125, and you set 125 on that water heater booster, once the temperature reads below 125, that water heater booster stays dormant until then, and then it kicks in. And it's going to heat that hot water heater. And this is going to give you up to 45% more capacity on your hot water heater. So that's almost like another half of a hot water heater added into your hot water heater. It requires no additional electricity, very little extra piping. I mean, basically you're just going to tie it into that and pipe it right back into the pipe that's going into your wall to supply your house. I mean, it's the bare minimum that you're going to need to add this extra hot water. And so by doing that, you can essentially, if you have guests coming over and, you guys always have an issue with not enough hot water, this will work, and this will fix your problem and save you from having to figure out how you're going to get more. And a lot of folks, they live in the condos and they say, well, maybe I'll just go to a tankless. What they don't realize is a full electrical tankless water heater is we're going to require at least 60 amps for an electrical tankless. And a lot of times what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to call Juan over there, and he's going to have to come over there and break the bad news to you that you've got to have a brand new wire ran to have an electrical tankless. Or worse yet, your panel is not big enough to accommodate that, and you're going to need a whole new panel. And so that's why, we like to recommend, if you're not in the mood for a water heater replacement just yet, put the booster on there.
What you're saying, I mean, from a water heater, I had 3 girls in my household, and a lot of times, by the time I get halfway through it, it was over, right?
Yeah, I mean, I only get like
1.
I don't even get hot water.
Yeah. By the time
I thought you were going to say just kick the girls out.
Yeah, I tried that. They kicked me out first. I mean, they told me to get a garden hose. But, a lot of times from a recirculating standpoint in the condos, like you talked about, that's something that, a lot of people don't realize is they run probably more cold water out the drain waiting for it to get hot, right? So you're wasting more water to having to wait for that hot water to recirculate over there. And that's part of what, over at Prevent Plumbing and Gerald from BK can help you out, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of a recirculating pump, if you have, a home that's, has a good expanse and, you have an issue to where you're running the hot water and it takes a long time to get there, we can add a recirculation line and a recirculation pump in there. And what that recirculation line and recirculation pump is going to do, it's going to continually rotate the water that's in your hot water lines. So all of your main lines are going to continually rotate. So that water never actually cools. What it does is you can either set it up for running full time, or you can set it up with a timer so it runs right before key time. So if every morning that you and the kids and everybody gets up at 7 o'clock to get ready, you can have this timer set on this recirculation pump to kick in at 6:30, and so right then it starts go ahead and recirculating all the water in the line. So by the time you guys are up and ready to start using showers, bam, you have instant hot water. Same thing in the evening times. If you get a routine with your key times in the evening times when everybody's getting home, getting their showers, getting dinner ready, the clothes are getting washed, then you can set for 30 minutes prior for this timer to kick in and to start your recirculation pump, and it will actually rotate out all the cold water that sat in that line all day and cooled off in that hot water line and recharge it again with warm water. And like I said, you can set it to times, which makes it energy efficient, or let it run all day long. And you, no matter what time of the day, you always have hot water quickly, and you don't have to worry about waiting. And especially if you're in the city on county water, you get charged sewer for your water. So if that shower runs 5 minutes waiting on hot water, well, you just got charged for the water and you got charged for the sewer. So you got double charged there. And if you're using a recirculation pump, you're going to cut down on that cost for you. Same thing, if you're out in the estates, then you're gonna run that well constantly, and that recirculation pump will cut down on that time frame that it takes for that to happen.
Back to the boosters. The good thing about the boosters is you get that extra 45% capacity, and you're not heating 45% more water.
Yeah.
All day long.
Yeah, utilizing what's going out the water. That's one of the things about it.
So I guess that booster is kind of like rated because, like, for just one person, one shower, I guess, maybe. If you're the last person on the totem pole, typically me, when it comes to showering, and
who would you give that extra amount for, one or two showers?
Yeah.
Just for you.
Just for me. That's it.
Matter of fact, I wouldn't turn it on until they all left.
I'm thinking about that. Yeah. I'll probably put it on Lutron and just.
I will say this: all of our clients that we put these booster heaters on, their heaters, they're extremely happy with them. I even have a few like 4-plexes and 6-plexes on the beach up in Estero, where they didn't have the electrical capacity to add like a bunch of tankless, but they had 2 existing electric tank heaters. So what we were able to do is kind of be creative when we pipe boosters on and set them up in a series, and now they get plenty of hot water. They're extremely happy. Extremely
and
happy.
another
We
transition.
have to increase the capacity on the electrical system.
Yeah, that's the key because, like I said, it's using the power source you're feeding the water heater, and then you tap from the booster to the water heater. So you're requiring no additional power source, and you're like I said, the booster has got an LED screen, so it uses next to no power while it's dormant. And then once it reads this below a certain temperature, then of course it's going to kick in and start heating up water. So I mean, like I said, it's it's a great option to have, and a lot of the retrofitting we do. Say the dunes, we've done a lot in the dunes, and Barker Mill, Collier's Reserve. They have 80-gallon water heaters, and so what we're finding a lot of is a lot of people are having these large water heaters. The cost to replace them is far beyond what they're actually worth. So what we're recommending to people is, hey, do the 55-gallon heater with a booster. You're cutting the water that you're heating by 25 gallons. And if you could imagine, that's a small water heater that you're taking away from what you're actually heating. And, if there's 2-3 people in the home, you're really not going to need more than the 55 gallons. And then you have the booster for when you do have company or you have an extra demand of hot water. And, 55 gallons with the booster will give you right back to your 80, but you're only heating 55 gallons at a time.
It's almost like you're cutting it in half.
Exactly.
Are those ratings based on all women in the house? Because I don't think that's good.
In your case, it's only 10% water.
Yeah, it's based on gallons of hot water. So, I mean,
it's based on how much water
I
goes
just don't
through.
know what they do with that hot water.
I could be wrong, but I think a lot of people also don't realize when they go with like an 80-gallon commercial, it's classified as commercial, right?
it is.
And usually commercial heaters have a 3-year warranty.
And a bigger element.
No matter what the literature says, usually a commercial heater, which is larger than 55, is only going to have a 3-year warranty.
Correct. And you're not going to be satisfied with the service you'll get from it if you do have any problems.
And the price is usually triple.
It is tremendous now from what it used to be. 10 years ago, to get an 80-gallon heater, it wasn't much more than, say, a 55. Nowadays, because of the classification for that gallon size and what they're considering commercial, because, back when these were put into homes, that was when, the water standards were totally different. Nowadays, when they say 80 gallons, they're thinking, hey, this is going into a restaurant. This is going into something large, and the prices on them have just, gone through the
Federal
roof.
regulations.
And we can avoid that kind of cost by recommending the 55 with the booster, because chances are you're really going to be pressing it to drain a 55-gallon heater. I mean, you have to do a lot to drain 55 gallons of heated water, because at the rate that it heats water, I mean, you could use it and use it and use it, and it would still give you decent water even after it starts to deplenish, unless, of course, it's one of those frigid Florida mornings.
Plus, with the 55, you've got a smaller footprint. I mean, that's going to be a 24-inch pan.
Correct.
To where if you go with a 70, 80, 120,
You're looking
going to
at a
have
30-inch
anywhere
pan.
from, a 30-inch pan.
And the size makes a big
if
difference.
you put that in
'cause
your
it's-
garage,
Yeah.
a 30-inch metal pan, that can be a trip hazard. So sometimes, if they go from a 50 to a 55 to an 80, there's other issues there too.
Yeah, the room and the areas. I mean, nowadays with like you said earlier, the regulations have created a lot of that. I mean, how much water is being used, right? So, I mean, in a sense of, doing it all, I mean, you guys can change the water heater or add to this water heater, right?
Yeah, I mean, if the water heater is above a certain age and condition, I'm not going to recommend putting a booster on it unless you replace the heater too, because, like I said, you're going to be putting new material on this old heater that's probably not going to last you much longer. And, put the money towards getting a new heater and then the booster as well. If you do have a large footprint on your home and you do have the issue of, hot water not getting to the fixtures quick enough, we could recommend the recirculation pump. If you have an existing one and you still feel like maybe it's not getting, give us a call. We'll come out, we'll check your recirculation pump to make sure it's functioning correctly, because a lot of people have the old cylinder style recirculation pumps, and they say, well, it's humming, but what you realize is the motor may still spin, but the impellers on the pump itself may not spin anymore. Those things may have broken, and you're just hearing the motor spin and thinking, well, it's working. And that's the key thing to a lot of it. People go out there, they put their hand on it, they'll feel the vibration, they'll hear the motor hum, and they go, oh, well, it's working.
They'll actually feel that the pump's hot, and they'll say, well, it's working, it's hot.
Right.
Well, it's
pump's burned up.
Exactly. It's not moving any water. So, or the check valve could be clogged.
Correct. And so, give us a call. We can come out, check those. If you're interested in getting a recirculation pump put in, we can go check out the floor plan of your unit, see what it would take to get a line ran, because ultimately it has to come from the furthest point and have a line ran back to that recirculation pump to tie back into your water heater. And if you don't have that existing, we can tell you the best route to do that. That way that you can have hot water quickly. And, because nobody wants to dance in a cold shower. Unless you're Juan.
That's me. I mean, I'm kind of glad you brought that up, because I had no idea about those boosters. And to be the guy that always kind of bears the bad news and saying you can't get a tankless water heater, we can recommend these. And I could just say, hey, call Brian over there.
Don't fret.
Call Prevent.
What's that phone number?
239-596-5533.
That's right. Well, like I said earlier, the audience, this is all about educational, right? I mean, and we're educating everybody about LED and recirculating pumps. I mean, it makes sense nowadays. Does it gain pressure from the pump also, or does it not give more pressure, or is it just another line of recirculating?
It's just recirculating the water that's in the line. So a lot of times what happens is especially like if it's overnight and, your water cools in those hot water lines. And so that's what causes the fact that, you may have 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 foot of pipe, and all that water is cooled now. So now you have to turn your shower on or whatever fixture you are to exhaust all that water from the heater all the way to that fixture. It's all cooled down, so now it's got to be exhausted, which means you've got to basically turn on the tap, let every bit of that flow right out, and waste that down the drain. When in actuality, what you can do is have that line put in and a pump, and it's going to recirculate it for you to where it's going to take out that old, flush that back into your heater to reheat that, and push the hot water that got pushed into your heater out in that line. So wham, you have instant hot water.
So how do you install one of those? I mean, does it? I know you said the furthest end, but I mean, like, how does it work on the furthest end? Like, how do you?
Well, of course, it's not going to be feasible in the first floor condo because the drywall to be removed. But if you're in a home, if it has to be a very large second floor condo, but because it's not really recommended in smaller condos. But if you're in a home, basically, we're going to go through the attic crawl space. We're going to tie into that main line, bring a line back to tie back into the recirculating pump to tie into the heater.
I mean, ideal situation is to go on the property when it's like the system's cold, and then go to your furthest fixture that you think, turn it on, time it for hot water, find out which is truly the furthest point, and then drag a line back from that location. Sometimes you might have to put a couple lines, depending on the way the system is and as large as these houses are down here. That's the preferred method. There's also a second method, right, Gerald?
Yep.
With the pumps, and that's a comfort system where you actually put the recirc on the discharge side of the tank, and it actually moves the water through the existing water lines, and then you just put these baffles like underneath your vanities at the furthest location, and those work pretty well. But the preferred method is pull a line from the furthest point back to the heater, put the recirc there, so it just loops and keeps dumping into the heater.
One of the things that you talk about from a recirculating standpoint makes sense. I mean, one of the things for a long time is that we used to put timers on water heaters, right?
Actually, hey, I want to touch on that. If you have a timer on your water heater, take it off.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that grow inside your heater when it's not heating. And it's definitely not recommended nowadays to have timers on your heaters.
Really?
I used to push them. I used to, back in the day, we didn't really know any better. But, now you see we're on TV, people are getting sick. And usually that's on the hot side from stagnant water in a tank, not being heated up enough to kill what's growing inside the tank.
Well, it turns it off for 5-6 hours. Now it's cold. Right. Then all of a sudden you turn it back on and it's hot again.
And that's the same thing also for part-time residents. A lot of part-time residents will switch their water heater off and leave. If you come back, switch your water heater on, and at least leave it on for several hours before you decide to use the water. If not, run the water and flush your tank, because that water that's sat in there for 6 months at a time, there's no telling what is cultured in that dark, cool water. And everybody knows, organisms are in the water. No matter how well the county can, clean the water or anything like that, there's always going to be something left behind. So, you really need to drain the water out of the tank through a fixture, or, either heat the water back up and leave it heating for at least a day prior to your usage of it. Because, it can cause a lot of health problems if you try to use that water prior to those organisms in that water being killed off.
I will say this. When I got my RO system installed, they disinfected my lines. And I'll tell you what, I was surprised what was coming out of my water heater.
Yeah.
I was just
they run chlorine through them.
Yeah, I was just like taken back.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, I was getting like gray water.
Yeah,
like
some of the toilets
gray
fill
water.
up with black sometimes.
Well, that's like some of the water mains throughout the town, especially from the meter up to the condos. We used to, when we'd replace them, we'd be out there in the yards or whatever, and we'd actually cut the galvanized pipes in half. And we usually had an audience, and they would actually see what was inside the pipes. And they couldn't believe, what they were actually drinking. And
yeah, the water that comes in from the city is one thing. And out in the estates and out in some of the areas in Lehigh and Cape Coral where they have well systems, the water that comes from that area is, tears up the anal rods, right?
Mm-hmm. I'll be honest with you. I don't care how good your system is. If you're going to drink your water probably out in the estates and stuff, I would have it tested every once in a while, every 6 months or a year. Just to make sure
the filters are working.
Yeah,
right?
you don't have any E. coli in your well. There's all kinds of things. You also don't know what someone did maybe half a mile down the road. If something, let's say there was someone who, didn't believe in going to the dump and they just buried
Flushed
everything.
their fertilizer out the back.
Yeah, and then it went down and leached into the soil and found a water path to your well. And you don't know unless you get a water test done. And what you can do is get a glass jar, take a sample and take it to the health department, and they'll send it off for a free test.
Well, again, we try to educate the audience on some of the things. Changing the water heaters out probably sounds like a smarter idea when you do the pump, right? All in one shot. Sounds like you also, if over at Prevent Plumbing, you would probably want to replace stops at some point in time. So if you're going to do an all-in-one shot, I'd change the water heater, the stops, and maybe even, put on the pump, right?
If they'd like it.
And
do it all.
And the same ideas is that you may even want to change the plumbing out to PEX, right?
Yeah.
So, the things that we talk about are things that over at Prevent Plumbing and B&K Services, they can do this all in one shot, and they can come out and give you a free estimate, right?
You know why we can do it? We're licensed and insured to do it.
Did you hear that? Licensed and insured. We all have to be licensed and insured. We harp on that on a daily basis in this show because we're the guys that got the license, and we fight every day with the guys that don't have the license, right, Juan?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of weird because I was talking to a county inspector today, on one of our jobs, and I was just taken back, to be honest with you. He was showing me pictures of what, other contractors do, and he was like, "Can you believe this? I'd have felt this guy," and can you believe this? I'd have felt this guy for this, and I'm looking at all these images, and I'm just like, I'm taken back. I really am.
Well, a lot of things that we've been educated at, we've been doing the trade for quite a long time, right,
Yeah.
Brian? The things that people don't really, they take for granted is the guy that they called through Facebook and Next Door Neighbor and Angie's List and Home Advisor and a lot of these things, they're not, required to show what kind of license they got. Brian, we had that situation a couple weeks ago in an inspection, right? And we're realizing we don't even know what LCC stands for. So
The county guy didn't even.
So yeah, it got me scared. That's why we're going to probably put him on a guest. Right. The next radio show we got coming up, we're going to bring in a few guests, and we're going to start to change the show up and bring some people that can tell you from the county standpoint what's code and what's not right, right, Brian? And get a little education from the county's perspective on how it should be. Like Juan was talking about, the inspectors I mean, somebody that we kind of like to kind of get along with and kind of, make friends with, right? And then part of what we want to be able to make sure that we work with them, because we got to get our inspections on a daily basis, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, when we build rapport with our inspectors, they know that when they come onto our site, they know what they're going to be looking at, and that's the biggest thing is, if you have an inspector come to your job sites, and he already has an image of the work that you do, that's just, it's the bad taste, and if you build good rapport, you do good work, and you take pride in your work like we do, I mean, that's just what it's about.
The inspectors build, I mean, a reputation with all of us, right? I mean,